If you are watching this video, then you are probably at least occasionally watching sailing videos here on YouTube. And you might have been wondering, how much money are these YouTube sailors like me really raking in from YouTube and Patreon? How does earning money on YouTube and Patreon actually work? In this video, I'll talk about all of that, and I will reveal all of my earnings exactly and to the penny from both YouTube and Patreon. Let's go inside and check the numbers. At this point, I have to warn you that this video contains absolutely no sailing. 100% bullshit, 0% sailing. Alright, on this video I'll go over a few topics. First, my journey or my position as a part-time sailing YouTuber and a little bit of context. Then second, how YouTube and Patreon work for earning money and how much revenue I've got so far. And then third, what were my costs and what's my actual hourly pay. And I can already tell you that the results were surprising, at least to me. I've been shooting footage for these videos for a little bit over 3 years, and I've been releasing them on YouTube for a little bit over 2 years. And to this date, I've published about 37 or 38 full-length videos and then a few shorter videos and live streams on top of that. And I've been very lucky because thanks to you, all of my viewers, I've been able to grow my channel somewhat quickly. Mainly probably because the content that I'm producing is at least somewhat unique. But to put all of this sailing channel business into context, my channel now has over 50,000 subscribers, and to me that's a huge number, but actually on a YouTube scale of things, that's a small number. On YouTube, there are at least 200,000 channels that have over 100,000 subscribers, and there are around 20 or 30,000 channels that have over 1 million subscribers. And as you might know, the sailing genre, the sailing niche, only has one channel that has over 1 million subscribers, and that's Sailing La Vagabond. So in general, sailing is a very, very small genre in YouTube scale of things. And this is important because when we are talking about earning money on YouTube, it's all about numbers. And when we are talking about sailing channels, the numbers might seem high to you, but actually on a YouTube scale of things, the numbers are quite low. All right, let's start talking about money. And I've received a lot of advice against doing this because some people think that it might alienate my viewers, and I know there's still a lot of people out there who view YouTube sailing channels as something that are just always asking and begging for free money. But for me, this whole kind of independent creator thing and supporting independent creators is just kind of the new age of the internet and how things work nowadays. So rather than spending my money on TV subscriptions or even Netflix, I rather support podcasts or live streamers or other sailing channels. So I'm not here to change your mind about that, and no matter what you think about that, the support that sailing channels are getting on YouTube and Patreon is the reason that the channels can still survive and continue producing content, because I'll talk about that a little bit later on, but just creating the content takes so much time that unless you are already financially set up for life, then the monetary income is kind of important for a lot of the creators. Most of us YouTube sailing creators earn most of our revenue through Patreon, but you can still earn a decent amount of money through YouTube AdSense, which means YouTube advertising. especially if your view counts are high. So how it works for YouTube advertising is that I, as a creator, when I publish a video, I can enable advertisements for that video, and usually I try to keep them disabled during the Patreon early viewing period. But then when the video goes public, I enable the ads, and then when you try to watch the video, you see these annoying advertisements either at the lower portion of the screen, like these display ads, or then you might see full screen video ads either before, during, or after the video. And money wise, how it works is that YouTube sells this advertising space to companies. Companies can buy the advertising space, and then YouTube takes a 45% cut of whatever the companies pay, and I get 55%. And you really have to have high view numbers to get decent income. So my AdSense ending balance after all of these videos since 2019, after 37 videos, I've earned €6,619.72, which is about 7,500 USD through YouTube advertising. At this point, I have to say that my AdSense earnings are probably a little bit higher than other comparable size sailing channels, and that is because a couple of my videos went kind of viral, or at least semi-viral, so I had quite high view counts for those videos. Then let's talk about Patreon, because Patreon is where most of the cold hard cash keeps just piling in for all of us sailing creators, apparently. So sailing channels on YouTube are a very special thing. I do not know of any other niche or a genre of videos on YouTube where Patreon is so widely accepted and so popular. It seems like sailing is the only niche where all of the channels are like really so actively pushing their Patreon, and where the viewers are so eager to support channels. I mean, I just have to put that out there. That's just how it is. Why is that? Why is Patreon so popular and so widely accepted and so widely used? I don't really know, but partly we probably have to thank SV Delos and La Vagabond and so on, who popularized it back in the day when I was not present yet. But in any case, you can think what you like about Patreon, but if it wasn't for Patreon, it's certain that a large majority of the current good quality sailing channels, so to say, they wouldn't exist. So personally, I've been on Patreon as a creator since June 2020, so for 1.5 years, and back in June 2020, I already had 15,000 subscribers on YouTube, and it's really interesting to note that while the channel on YouTube has quadrupled in size almost, the number of patrons has only doubled. So 1 month after I created my Patreon page, I had 90 patrons, and now I have around 200, so a little bit over double. That might be because maybe the people that were really committed and interested already signed up in 2020, or maybe I just haven't been good enough at pushing my Patreon page, or maybe, I don't know, maybe I'm just not relatable enough as a person. There's many possible reasons. But let's calculate the Patreon earnings next. And how do we calculate that? So when I, as a creator, when I make my Patreon page, I can choose whether my supporters, whether my supporters pledge per month or per creation. And I've chosen per creation, which in this case means per video, because that means that the supporters can then choose how many videos they want to pledge per month. You know, they can also choose just one video, so then they will know how much they are going to spend per month. But that also then means that if I don't release something during a given month, then the patrons don't get billed anything, and I think that's a little bit more fair like that. Before any of the money actually finds its way to me, Patreon takes their cut, and Patreon takes 5% platform fee, which is kind of like their service fee, and then they take a 3% processing fee on the payments. And the processing fee is actually the reason why my minimum tier on Patreon is currently set at $5, because Patreon actually takes a larger processing fee for smaller payments. So that's why my minimum tier right now is $5. And a lot of people don't like Patreon because of these fees, and I understand that, but at the same time I think the fees are kind of fair for what we are getting. It really simplifies the process for me, and the Patreon, you know, it just makes things easier. And compared to other platforms, for example, YouTube now offers their own channel memberships option, so I could offer paid channel memberships, which is a little bit like Patreon but has less functionality, and YouTube takes a 30% cut of that, so that's a lot more than what Patreon takes. But anyway, total that I have earned so far from Patreon with all the fees deducted is $10,887 US dollars. So 10.9k from Patreon approximately, and 7.5k from YouTube AdSense earnings. That's 18.4k in total in US dollars. And that is already a pretty good chunk of money, at least for me. But then, unfortunately, the reality starts setting in when we calculate the costs and the hourly earnings. So I make videos mostly for fun, but I have to prioritize things because I only have a limited amount of hours per day. So my main work is translating. I'm a translator, and I have to prioritize my work hours, because in the end, you know, I need to pay my bills and I have to make the ends meet. So I'm interested in calculating the hourly earnings, because that's how I can decide whether I should spend my time translating or making videos if I want to actually make money. So in order to calculate my hourly earnings, we first need to deduct the costs from the revenue, because it's not all about earning money. I'm also spending some money to make these videos, and all of the camera gear that I'm using is just used for making videos. So I don't use my camera gear for anything else. If I'm not shooting YouTube videos, then I don't carry any of the camera gear. I just have my cell phone, and I take photos and grab memories with this. So all of the camera gear is just filmmaking related cost. So far, what I've bought and used for making these videos are 2 lower mid-range cameras. I always try to be like very sensible with my camera gear purchases. I never purchase the newest tech, and I never purchase like the high-end stuff. I try to get like the the best price quality ratio that I can get. So far, like I said, I've had 2 lower mid-range cameras. First one I accidentally destroyed, the second one I'm still using, 600 USD each. Then one cheap zoom lens that I used, for example, for the animal footage or the whale footage in northern Norway. That was a cheap one, just 150 USD, but I would really like to upgrade that to something that works better in low light. And then I just bought one good lens for my camera. It was a used one, 600 USD, would have been 1200 new. And then a couple of batteries and accessories and tripods, 250 USD. So total 2200 USD for the main camera. Then I've used 3 drones so far. The first one died of old age. The second one I accidentally dropped into water from my bag. And the third one is still in use. They are kind of expensive. Average with extra batteries maybe 1100 USD each, so 3.3k in total for the drones. And then I've had 2 GoPros, 350 each, and for those I've had a lot of extra batteries and accessories, maybe 200 USD for those, so 850 USD total. And microphone and microphone wind cover. I just bought a good quality microphone and wind cover because I've had a lot of problems with that. That was 500 USD. Then I've used 4 external hard drives for storing all of my footage. Let's say $130 each, so total $520 for those. Then for editing the footage, I've used 2 laptops. This one is the cheapest MacBook Air, which was 1000 USD, and before this I had a PC laptop which died of old age and too much exposure to both environment, and that was 1300 USD. And then I also have a cheap secondary USB screen to have more space when I'm editing, for my timeline and so on. But these laptops I also use for other stuff, not just for video editing. So let's say that 50% of the cost is video editing cost, so to say. So the total would be $2,550, but let's only take 50% of that. So that would be $1,275. In the end, the total cost for all of this stuff is $8,645. And I have to say I'm a little bit shocked by that because I didn't think that I had used so much money, and this is the first time that I'm actually calculating this. I probably should have calculated this earlier, but I haven't. So that's a big cost, and of course you could say that you can shoot YouTube videos with a lot less camera gear. Some people just use their cell phone and they make really awesome videos, and it is definitely possible to do that. But I think that for my style of videos, you need like some kind of a minimum of a camera gear, and I would say that I'm pretty close to the minimum to what I can do with to produce these kind of videos. So let's calculate the income, and let's do the total revenue of 18,400 USD minus the costs of 8,645 USD. So we come to a total income of 9,755 USD. So that's around 10,000 roughly, and 10,000 it still seems like a pretty good chunk of money. But what I'm really interested in is how much we are earning per hour. And this is what I came up with. So my videos are more condensed than most sailing videos here on YouTube, so I probably end up spending more time on the editing than a lot of the other sailing creators. So I looked at all of my videos, and I would say that the average length of my videos is around 16 or 17 minutes. Let's say 16 minutes, just to do like a really rough calculation. And then I spend to finish 1 minute of video, I have calculated and figured that I need an average of an hour and 45 minutes to edit that. So to finish 1 minute of video that's ready for release, I need to be spending an hour and 45 minutes editing that on my laptop. And yes, that sounds like quite a lot, but that's just how it is with editing. It always seems to be like that I think, oh yeah, I'm gonna finish this quick, it's gonna be nice and easy, and then 10 hours later I'm still editing. So editing really takes a lot of time, and then of course I spend some time for actually shooting the videos and planning the videos, and I would say that I spend at least 3 hours like actively shooting the videos, either with my drone or actively using the camera. So for editing 37 videos that were average 16 minutes each and average of an hour and 45 minutes to edit each minute, I have spent at least 1036 hours for editing so far, but I would have to say that the actual number is a lot higher, because especially my earliest videos are even more condensed than the current ones, and there I easily spent a full working week to edit just 10 minutes. But let's say 1036 hours for editing, just to get a rough number. Then for shooting the actual footage and so on, let's say at least 3 hours per video, so 37 times 3, that's 111 hours. So 1147 hours total. That would be the equivalent of 25 40-hour work weeks. And now if we calculate the hourly earning, we come to 8.5 USD per hour. And then from that I of course pay my income taxes and pay my social security fees and pension fees and so on, and that's also a good amount of money that I have to pay for that. So is it worth it right now for me, just for the money? Well, I would say no, it's not worth it. But will it be worth it in the future? Yes, possibly. It might be, because YouTube and Patreon, they can scale, and they can hopefully scale upwards. So if at some point I'm making decent money from YouTube and Patreon, then, well, I won't be ashamed because of that, and I just consider that to be like kind of the payback time for all of the work and investment that I've put into this earlier on. There are a good number of sailing YouTube channels that are making good money, or even very good money, from YouTube and Patreon, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that, because these people are like experts in their field, and they are just very good at what they are doing, and they've been doing that for a long time. I have to say though that some of the top sailing channels who are earning hundreds of thousands or even over $1 million per year possibly, are doing some shady marketing by implying that they are still very poor and not doing well, and that they still need the money to basically just survive. So I try to be fair and at least somewhat transparent when I push my Patreon page and so on. So if you catch me being all sleazy and slimy, just feel free to call me out on that, and I try not to do that. Anyway, I think that was it for this time. That was enough about money. Next weekend, the video is going to be a boat tour of Arctica, and that has been one of the most requested videos ever. That's gonna be next weekend. I hope to see all of you then. Bye bye.